Shalom, everybody. Shalom. Listen, we are live. Thank y'all for tuning in to Hebraic Faith TV. Listen, we appreciate you. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for sharing this on your timeline. Thank you for sharing this with your friends. We appreciate you so much, Saints. Listen, look out for us. We got Dr. Kelly with us, Dr. Kelly Richardson with us, and he's going to be breaking down. We're going to be talking in depth about the Masons and the Greeks. But before we get started, I want y'all to listen to, this is one of my favorite songs by my Lorvins. Listen, let's get it going. Y'all be blessed. And when this comes off, we'll definitely be back in with you. Shalom.
We gon' jump, we gon' jump, and I ain't that worried about nothing, and I ain't ashamed to throw my hands up, yeah, we gon' jump, it ain't real, we gon' jump, it ain't real, and I don't care who is watching, and y'all why I feel nothing, it ain't real, yeah, I see you over there, with side eye, yes, and it's no face. Look like you're about to cry with your story. Don't be holding back your tears, don't be phony. People walking right past fire, singing like we did in the fire. Praise God for the new day, cause he wasn't taken out the way. Old man gone away, let the new man manifest today. Say it again, old man gone away, let the new man manifest today. We gon' jump, we gon' jump, and I ain't that worried about nothing. And I ain't ashamed to throw my hands up. Yeah, we gon' jump. It ain't real. We gon' jump. It ain't real. And I don't care who is watching. It ain't real. And y'all why I feel nothing. It ain't real. Yeah,
jump. Like a set of cables, we jumping. Put it on a shoe, now we jumping. Like a game of double dutch jumping. Led by the Ruach, no stunting. We used to catch a stone to the face. Now a stone might cry in your place. Man. Those are the breaks, guilty but Christ on that case. Hey, hold on, we jumped in old times in the club. Here's a plug, we jumped for Zion. Sticks in the mud, the branches fell off, so Mashiach paid the full cost. Hey,
we gon' jump, we gon' jump, and I ain't that worried about nothing, and I ain't ashamed to throw my hands up. Yeah, we gon' jump. It ain't real, we gon' jump. It ain't real, and I don't care who is watching. It ain't real. Y'all why I feel nothing.
Daze, unleaded, better fill on up. Like JB, better get on up. All bones and the goons are for real, but they hit on up. No time but to build on up. Call it framework. Yeah, you know what made the framework. Yeah, is the hell of that same hurt. So when I jump, I remain vert. Cause the cow is more than hopscotch when I double with lights. Jump while we shining like a nightlight. Walk in the building is a Mac right. Hands to the till it run it back like. Hell, tell them people who we act
like. We gon' jump, we gon' jump, we gon' jump. I ain't gotta worry, I ain't gotta worry about nothing. And I ain't ashamed to throw my hands, I ain't ashamed to throw my hands. Yeah, we gon' jump. It ain't real, we gon' jump. It ain't real, and now I can't be watching. Y'all why I feel. It ain't real, yeah, we gon' jump. We gon' jump, and I ain't that worried about nothing, and I ain't ashamed to throw my hands up. Yeah, we gon' jump. We gon' jump.
Shalom, everybody. Shalom. Dr. Kelly, how you doing, sir? You need to unmute your mic. We can't hear you.
Want to say thank you for having me. Want to say Shalom Lak, Mash Pakra, to all the family, to everyone that's watching the presentation. So appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you coming on with us. We know you're a busy man. Just by what you teach, I know you are busy. Our praises to the Most High, because we need what you have, sir. We definitely need what you have. And per our conversation, thank you. We shout out to Yochanan. Yasharala, man, for just introducing us and connecting us. And when we had that depth conversation, I think we were on the phone for a couple of hours talking about in depth, man, just going over what was going on with our people becoming Masons and being Greeks. We talked in depth about the Greek organizations. And, you know, I just look at it like, man, it's another gang to me. That's all when I look at it. And I just want you to shed some light to our people. Just shed some light, you know, give your thoughts, man. Show us what you have learned. Because if I'm not mistaken myself, you once were a Mason.
Absolutely. Yeah, at one time I was a Mason, and at one time I served in the military. I was in
Yes,
the
sir.
Air Force, the United States Air Force, for 8 years, and I went through my initiation and all, when I was overseas. So, and what many don't know is that many within the military are part of Freemasons or some form of fraternity, sorority, and
Wow.
every base has a lodge, and so that's associated with that base. So that's how I was introduced to Freemasonry in terms of uh, uh, going through the motions and so forth. So yeah, it's a lot that comes with that, and there's a
Yes, sir.
lot that far as influence that they have in areas that we would never think that they have influence in.
Yes,
So
sir.
look forward to really talking about that and discussing and sharing some of the basic foundation of what for fraternities and sororities, what they do, how they function, certain terms, what they mean. So look forward to sharing that with you tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I know it's quite tempting for a lot of our young people that are going to college, because some of them think that it's an advantage, you know, and they present it all out like an all-out package when you go to college, especially in our black universities or HBCUs. I see this is like, you know, the first thing they pushing on them when they get there, like, oh, you got to be you got to be here, you got to be there. You know, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's the unfortunate thing. Many, of course, you're absolutely right. Many HBCUs, that's part of the culture. Fraternities and sororities are part of the culture of that school.
Yes, sir.
When you go to many of these schools, whether it's um, North Carolina A&T or Howard University or Hampton University, which they refer to as the other HU, Norfolk State, and many of these other schools, you'll see that fraternities and sororities are vital. They're a major part of the culture of these schools, and so they have a major influence on pushing these institutions on our youth, on our brothers and sisters.
Yes, sir. And I I know we were sort of, before we got there, we see what Spike Lee did to the black community by how he pushed it on us. He pushed it with movies like School Days. We were amazed. It's like, man, if we go to college, we got to join a sorority. We got to join a fraternity. We got to be a part of this, because the way it was sold to our people is, if you're not a part of this organization when you go to school, you're not going to really make it. They push it
Yeah,
on the football players, the athletes, the basketball players, the track stars. So if you're a star, you got to be part of this right here, or it's just not going to work for you.
yeah, absolutely. And see, the way that I saw it, though, I saw that I took School Days as Spike Lee was trying to make people aware of the climate, because he gave
Yes.
both sides, and he showed a lot of the down, or should I say, the drawbacks, to repercussions of fraternities and the pressure that they
True
put
statement.
on you. For example, the women. You notice how each one of the women had weave or their hair pressing or makeup. They was really under the pressure of compromising themselves to the big brothers, the
Yeah,
male portion
exactly.
of their fraternity. They would compromise themselves with sex and all those different things. And I believe that he was just trying to expose what many had no clue what was going on prior to going to college. Many had no clue that many of these fraternities will put pressure on women like that. Seeing all the hazing, and had no clue about that aspect of fraternities and sororities, because they start grooming in high school. The AKAs have all kinds of functions like dances, daddy daughter dances, and things like that along that line, but they
Yes.
never show you or talk to them about that aspect of it.
Yes,
So
sir.
I believe that what Spike Lee was doing, he was trying to show us of what actually goes on in terms of the pressures of being part of those fraternities and sororities, and even just the college atmosphere as a whole, of, you know, especially when we're dealing with the black colleges. And when you see that, because I went to Hampton University for a little bit when I was in the military station in the Hampton area. So I got to see that firsthand, that culture, you know, and the pressures and the things that people would do all for the sake of a fraternity. So if you notice how the manipulations that came along with that, how the male fraternity, what's that, G5G or whatever they were, you know what I mean? Remember how they did the woman that was over their sister sorority, you know, how they passed her around, you know, how he treated her, manipulated her to sleep with half pint, and then in the end, he used that right back at her, like, hey, I can't believe you did this. So just the manipulation and the things like that. When I looked at school days from a perspective of when I was in school, I looked at it from a perspective of, I think it gave an idea of some of the pressures that comes with the territory of those fraternities and sororities, and especially when you go into a black college. I think that the ultimate message was an identity issue, because he had both sides, those that opposed it and those that were supportive of it. In the end, he closed it out with what? Wake up. In other words, wake up. Everyone in that movie was sleeping. You know, everyone, had those that had good intentions, but they didn't know how to articulate their message. So that's where the large Fishburns and them come into play, because they kind of remind me of our community. You have many within our community have good intentions, but don't understand or don't know how to articulate the truth, don't know how to articulate who we are. Good intentions, but can do a lot of damage if you're not really understanding or really don't know how to articulate this in a respectful manner to those, and that you're trying to witness to.
Exactly. Shout out to my sister Athenia Lente, my coach. I love her. She brought up a point. She said she said they're even in the elementaries now. They're even coming into the elementaries recruiting the kids now. And then we're not awake, and we're wanting our kids to be so accepted. Oh, they can go to college. Oh, they can, this is going to be, and they're telling you this is an easy access. Get with us, connect with us. And most of us, we don't do our own research. We accept a lot of things for face value. And we look at it and say, okay, that's cool, that's it. Instead of going and digging into something, and I want to talk about the oaths that they take to become what they are. It's not without a price, if I should say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I like to do is, if you want to bring up the presentation, I want to touch on just a couple of things before we get into it, just so that way the people understand the importance of a couple of things I'm going to highlight. Let me see here. Now, remember that movie, The Last Dragon?
Yes, sir.
I don't know. Now, what always stood out to me was the song. Remember When You Get That Glow? Yes, right? Sir. And so this presentation is about the glow, right? Greek lettered organizations. That's the abbreviation for the glow, right? Or the acronym for the glow. But when I thought about that song, right? When you get that glow, know the power of elevation, right? So when you think about fraternities and sororities and you hit on it, it's because they sell the connection. That, hey, if you join here, the benefits is we can be beneficial for you outside of this institution. It'll help you with jobs. It'll help you with, different programs to get you involved and all those different things. That's what they sell you on, is the elevation. So when you get that glow, the power of elevation. So that's I kind of tied that in, because to me, that was a very thought-provoking song, even at that time when I was like, wait a minute, the glow, the power of elevation, that sounds more like mysticism. And we can kind of see a mystical influence over these fraternities and sororities. And so the question that we're going to answer, why do so many join glows, right? And that's elevation through connection, like you just brought out. The elevation through connections, want the hookup, all right? And elevation through employment opportunities, as we just pointed out. You know, and this is one of the things that I say to our assembly just about every time I give a word. When you don't see and know your value, you allow others to define it for you. And that's imperative, because we've been institutionalized, not even knowing it, not knowingly, that we have to always devalue ourselves to those that have oppressed us, to those that have placed us and put us inside this predicament that we're in. You know, when you don't see and know your value, you allow others to define it for you. All right. So, matter of fact, let me fast forward here. Let me see what I have here. Matter of fact, this is a prophecy here. Joel chapter 3, verse 6, verse 3 through 6. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine. Notice, selling out our people, right? For opportunities. We can also deal with the transatlantic world war from this, but it says that they might drink. But it goes on to say, yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre, and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly, speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head. But it goes on to say, because you have taken my silver and gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians. So think about the confusion. We have our own brothers and sisters trying to be Greeks, you know, trying to be part of a system that we were sold to.
Yes, sir.
So that the children of Jerusalem ye have sold into Grecian. So it says the children of Judah, right, and the children of Jerusalem, because we know that when we're dealing with the southern kingdom, they were called Judah, right? And why Jerusalem is important is because we know that the priests dwelt in Jerusalem, but also a tenth of the different tribes dwelt in Jerusalem. That was like the capital, and also Jerusalem represents the heart of Israel. The northern southern kingdom, the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom, but then you always saw that Jerusalem was identified, separately. Why? Because Jerusalem is the heart of both, the heart of Israel. But it goes on to say, the children of Jerusalem have ye sold into the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their borders. So yet we continue, our people, to make deals with the Grecians through what? Just what you pointed out, pledges, right? We still see this behavior taking place among our people. Now, I'm not going to get into the heritage part, because this is part of the presentation, is pretty lengthy. But the other point I want to highlight is getting down to race, right?
Yeah.
What is race? And I want to make it clear to the people, race is not a representation of our heritage. If you understand heritage, you can really use Genesis chapter 10 to break down heritage: land, family, and tongues. That's the key, which constitutes, or the three major pillars of what constitutes a nation, of being considered a nation. And all of Noah's sons were divided among that. So race does not represent heritage, right? And the quick thing I want to point out, race represents a newly created social identity. Though the creators of this institution had to what? Create a new social identity for the entire world. So this new social identity placed our people at the bottom. They turned the world upside down, literally.
Yes,
took
sir.
us
Yes,
from
they
the
did.
top and placed us to the bottom. So race represents a newly created social identity. Race is an institution. Every governmental system is built off of this. So I just want to highlight this real quick, just to lay out the foundation, right? This is coming from pbs.org, based on an article by R.G. Smedley. She's an anthropologist, very well known. And this is what she wrote about the origin of the idea of race. Notice what she said, idea of race. So it says here, just a couple of bullets. Contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention. Let me say that again. Contemporary scholars agree. So all the scholars that you know that's into anthropology, they know that race was a recent invention. In other words, somebody have a patent to this too. When you
Wow.
create something, there's also a patent that's assigned to it. But it goes on to say in that it was essentially a folk idea, not a product of scientific research and discovery. This is not new to anthropologists. So they're literally telling you that there was no scientific equations that came together to put together this institution. It's all about stereotypes. That's all what race is. It's a system that created stereotypes and ultimately towards our people. But it goes on to say in this article, the term race, which had been a classificatory term like type or kind, but with ambiguous meaning, that's important, generic, Catholic, universal, because Catholic is interchangeable with universal, generic,
Yes, sir.
right? Bland, vague, but with ambiguous meaning, became more widely used in the 18th century and crystallized into a distinct reference. And it goes on to say for Africans, Indians, and Europeans. I didn't put all of that here, but notice what it says here. By focusing on the physical status, right? The physical and status differences between the conquered and enslaved peoples and the Europeans, right? So to draw a line between the conquered and enslaved and the Europeans who conquered them. The emergent ideology linked the socio-political status and physical traits together. And guess what they did, my brother? Created a new form of social identity. So anyone that tried to tell us that identity doesn't matter, they are misleading you. Because if they keep bringing up, for example, saying that they're a black man or a white man or whatever, guess what? Now they're dealing with identity, because that term, that color, black, white, these are color descriptors. These are items that was created, social constructs that was created by the creators who actually formed this system. So they gave a new social identity. And what's the identity? Instead of you recognizing your heritage and your ethnicity, we are programmed to say that I am a black man. When other communities, like when you see those that's under the white community, they still say that they're Italian. They still say that they're German. They still say that they're Russian. But when it comes to our people, only thing we hold on to is black. But you can't tell us. None of us, for the most part, up until this great awakening, most of us couldn't even tell you what it means to be black. What country associates with it? All they'll just say, hey, I'm a black man. I'm from Africa. Another what? Generic construct.
Yes, sir.
So,
yes, sir.
So I wanted to highlight that key point there. So I'm gonna fast forward here. Any comments that you want to add?
No, it's crazy because I see what you're saying. And the Most High said in the scriptures that we will lose our heritage. And we have lost that because of the systems that have been in place and the indoctrinations that have been on. The Most High word is true. We have lost our heritage. We have lost our who we are. And now we're waking up to who we are. And now it's time to wake up these Greeks these people that are claiming to be Greek. And they're pushing this Greekness over everybody, over there, over ministry. They're selling out to this. And it's just something, man, you could definitely go in depth with us.
I appreciate it, my brother. And someone pointed out Johann Blumenbach created this system. Absolutely. That's in the presentation. I kind of skipped over it because I didn't want to put a lot of time into that area. But you're absolutely correct. And he's what? A German, right?
Wow.
And why is that important? We know that the term Ashkenaz, right, is associated with Germany.
Yes,
right.
Sir.
So that tells you that he was what? A descendant of Ashkenaz.
Yes.
That created this system. So the other thing that I want to point out is salvation. This is important because every system, when you start dealing with these institutions, these fraternities and sororities, they all have a form of salvation that they're pushing. Wow. So we have to understand what salvation is. But notice what the Hebrew definition of salvation says versus what we're taught in the institution of Christianity and Catholicism. Notice it says here, yasha, to be open, to be safe, avenging, defend, deliver, deliverer, help, preserve, rescue, be safe. Now, how come we're not explained that portion of salvation? We've been programmed to say that salvation means I've accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as my savior. But that really doesn't tell you what salvation is. When you ask the average person in church, explain to me what salvation. That's what I do in our assembly. You have 3 minutes to tell me what salvation is, you know, and if they start off stuttering, guess what? I stop them. Because this right here tells you what salvation is: to be open, free, to be safe, avenging, defend, deliver, deliverer, help, preserve, rescue, be safe. So the Messiah said that he came to do what? Bring salvation to Israel. In other words, open their eyes, make them free from the delusions, make sure that they understand what it means to be safe, avenge us from all those that put us in the predicament that we're in, defend us when we need to be defended, deliver us, help, preserve us, you know, that remnant that we talk about, rescue us because we need rescuing right now, and keep us safe. And here's the kick at the end, even though it's not highlighted: get victory. When we understand salvation, he is in a nutshell, we think about that word salvage, right? We've been taught that we're unsalvageable, right? We're a group of people that seem to be unsalvageable. So the Messiah did what? Brought hope back to his people to make us, let us know that, guess what? We are salvageable, right? And this is the whole summary of what salvation is. All right. Another key word I want to highlight is shield, right? Magan, right? This is what shield says. It says a shield, a protector, defense. And this goes hand in hand with salvation. And I'm going to show you why. So this is a popular shield in modern Israel, or is the Israeli territory, right? This is it right here. The Magen David, right? Shield of David, the so-called Star of David. Notice what it says. Or hexagram constructed of 2 interlocked triangles. This is where you get the steeples that are on churches, right? That actually come from this right here, this hexagram. Now accepted as a symbol of Judaism. Actually, it was not associated with Judaism until the late Middle Ages. It was not officially accepted as a Jewish symbol until the 17th century. The original source of the Magen David, or Magen David, was the Tantric Great Yantra. Now we're getting into Hinduism, which stood for union of the sexes. The downward pointing triangle being female, the upward pointing refers to the male. The two signifying the internal union of the god and goddesses. This is dealing with Hinduism, right? And what we just described here is a sexual ritual. That's all this is. Also, I'm not sure if you ever heard of the Kali dance of death.
Yes.
That's what this symbolizes. That exactly. So this, so when you understand this symbol, it is a symbol that is based off of sexual rituals. But notice what it says here: Kabbalistic, and goddesses. Right? It goes on to say Kabbalistic sex worship brought the yantra into the Jewish tradition. Now we're dealing with what? The Kabbalah, right? Jewish mysticism. So we see how this was infused. But now that I said that, right, just to give you the laying out the foundations, notice what we have on the screen. We see all kinds of governmental systems here. And the one that you see at the front is the Fraternal Order of the Police, right? You see all these systems up here. Some of these are government systems. Some of this are military systems. Some of this is, as you see, the DOJ, Department of Justice. These are different systems. And each of them have what? A seal, right? And each one of them is supposed to give a form of what? Salvation underneath these shields, right? But notice that one again. We're going to highlight this real quick. The Fraternal Order of Police. began in 1915. And this is going to answer why do we still see the situation that we see happening to our people? Why do they call themselves a fraternity? Because they are a fraternity. They'll do whatever it takes to defend each other. Why? Because they made a pledge, in other words, collateral to that shield. So the Fraternal Order of Police began in 1915 by two Pittsburgh patrol officers, Martin Toole and Delbert Nagel. 21 other cops met on May 14th, 1915, and held the first meeting of the Fraternal Order of the Police, forming Fort Pitt Lodge number 1. The Fraternal Order of Police not only mimicked the Masonic structure, because that star is the same star for the Eastern Stars, but also adopted a 5-pointed star as their emblem, containing twin Masonic images of the all-seeing eye and a typical style grip. In other words, Masonic style grip, the handshake that you see inside the star.
So
right?
wait a minute, Dr. Kelly. So you saying all this is tied together?
Absolutely.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
Absolutely.
ahead.
You're hitting it right on the nail. So now we're starting to get an understanding. Guess what? When we look at the legal system, it's a fraternity, from the judges to the district attorney. All of those guys are part of this fraternity. If you ever notice, right? I'm not sure if you had to go through what I had to go through of speeding, right? And now I have to either go to court, or I have to go to court to, pay fines, or, either pay the fine or go before the judge, right? And I noticed when I went before the judge, right, didn't have a lawyer. Guess what? I ended up paying the told me I had to pay a fine, found me guilty and all of this, and I had to pay, like $400 for my fine, right?
Yes, sir.
But then I learned that lesson. At least from what I saw, I thought I learned the lesson. I sped again, right? So I went to a court again, but this time I decided to get a lawyer. Guess what? How much I ended up paying for a lawyer? Almost $400 for the lawyer at that time. I go before the judge, and what happens? The judge dismisses the case. Guess why? They still got money into their system. Why? Because the lawyers they're buddy with the judges, they're buddy with the prosecutors, all of them buddy. They still got money out of me into their system.
Yes, sir. Wow.
Right? So
yes,
what you see on your screen, these are more symbols. These are more emblems or shields that many people are pledging to, from the firehouse, as you see, the Red Cross, Britain, that you see these seals right here, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
Every shield has a set of laws which can only be carried by those who pledge. Notice you have to pledge. You can't just say that you want to be up under this shield. You have to pledge to this shield, right? Real quick, pledge means this: to promise, to give over as security for repayment. Put under oath, or put someone under oath. Well, why am I saying this? Well, guess what? A pledge is basically you have to give them something as collateral. So when you pledge into these systems here, you're giving them your life as collateral.
Wow.
So now you are able to carry the shield and get all the so-called benefits from it.
So your life is the collateral.
Your life is the collateral. That's why whenever you pledge, they make you what? In Freemasonry, they have you what? Put your hand over your heart or cut your heart. You know what I mean? Pledging to the flag, the United States of America, you put your hand over the heart. Every fraternity is going to have something whenever you pledge, is going to deal with some type of symbol or some type of gesture you have to make with your heart.
That's why they say, cross my heart and hope to die.
Cross my heart, hope to die.
Yes,
stick a needle in my eye.
My eye. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Keep going. I'm definitely with you.
Now, notice this symbol right here. This is the Eastern Star. If you look at it closely, this also looks like the Baphomet.
It does.
Right?
The head
the
of the
horns,
Baphomet.
the ears, and the chin. Right? So this also looks like what? The Fraternal Order of Police. And they still have this same symbol there. They have this word, they're fatal there. This is the Fraternal Order of Police. Also, you'll see this same symbol in witchcraft. With those that are studying witchcraft, the same colors and everything. That's why we have to be careful, many of the women, even the color of their hair, because it means something here.
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
notice
sir.
here, you see the Masonic symbol, you have the square and the compass. You notice it still forms the star. All I have to do is put a line here and a line here. Guess what I just did? I formed the star. It's still the same. But guess what? I put this here so that way you can see that the foundation, all the fraternities and sororities come through these two key groups. The Freemasons, which the Eastern Stars are nothing more than a female branch of the Freemasons, right? So what is the glow? In other words, as I pointed out, it stands for Greek lettered organizations. So why do so many Israelites call themselves Greeks when that's not their nationality? All right. So I'm gonna fast forward. I'm not gonna get into the cult portion of it, but I just want to kind of touch on that there. But let me highlight one other thing here, right? When we start looking at the origins, look at what it says here for fraternity. This is the etymology dictionary. Guys, you can get this information for yourself. I'm giving you sources that you can actually see for yourself. You can confirm these here. That's why I put as you notice, I put the links at the bottom, just so that way the people can confirm what I'm saying is true, right? So look at what it says about fraternity. It says body of men associated by common interest, brotherhood, right? But it goes on to say college, Greek lettered organizations, since it's from 1777. First in reference to who? The Phi Beta Kappa. So we see that even now all of our fraternities and sororities, we did not create them. We did not originate. No. They were not originated with us, put it that way. They come from what? These guys here, ultimately from Freemasonry, right? Same thing with sorority. Look at what we see with sorority. A society of women, body of women, united for some purpose. But it goes on to say, attested by 1887, Alpha Delta Pi claims founding in 1851. So this is the first college fraternity right here. Phi Beta Kappa was founded by 5 students at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. The first meeting was held in the Apollo Room of the Old Raleigh Tavern on December 5th, 1776.
John Heath. That sounded like during the time that they made the so-called Constitution.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And this is what, if I didn't mean to cut you off, but this is what the Maccabees had to deal with.
Oh, it's a lot.
Yeah, they had to deal with this back in that. Man, come on, please keep going. This is great. I hope y'all are out there really paying attention. Talk to your kids that are going to college. Let them know what they're up against and what they're doing. The oath that they take is against the Most High. Their association alone with this right here, these organizations are against the Most High. This is not of the Most High. I don't care how you see it as a blessing, how you see it as a tool. I don't care if they help you pass college, get through college, be a blessing with a job. It's not the Most High. The enemy wants something. You're giving your soul for their, like he said, their badge. You want the benefits of the badge, you got to sell out. You can keep going out, Dr. Kelly.
And you know, to your point, when you talked about, when you mentioned the Maccabees, when you look at that period of the Maccabees,
yes, sir,
they went through a time of sorrow, right? They went through a time of sorrow when you think about it, right? What's his name? Antiochus was trying to push and force the Greek culture on the Israelites.
Yes.
What did they do? The 2 key elements, take away circumcision and cause them to profane the Shabbat, ultimately to profane the temple. They wanted them to eat food sacrificed to idols. They want to have them embrace this Greek culture, turn Jerusalem into Mount Olympus.
Yes, that's what it was.
And people don't understand why that's so important, because again, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. That is the heartbeat of the Most High. So now they want to turn Jerusalem into Mount Olympus. right? With Zeus and Hercules and all those guys, that they wanted to bring the Greek gods and force the Israelites to embrace it. The same thing that we see with the Romans, same thing that we see when we get into the 2nd century, right? We see the same things even today. What is being forced on, or has been forced on our people, especially during the Transatlantic World War? And for those that may not be familiar with me, I'd never call it a slave trade, because it was actually a world war, because the Catholic Church, you can look at this up, and maybe later on we can do something on it, and I can show you some sources. But you can also start with slavery in the Catholic Church, and you'll see, I believe on page 53 to 55, you'll see sources of edicts that were signed, and they said that the church, Christianity, Catholicism declared war. The rules of war, they applied the rules of war on our people. The rules of war. So that means they're going to force the entire culture on our people. That's part of the rules of war.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So nevertheless, but I just thought I wanted to share, kind of touch on that a little bit, being that you mentioned the period of the Maccabees, because we still see that playbook playing out today.
Right now. They're pushing it hard. They're pushing it hard. They haven't let up on us. They haven't let up on us.
So as we can see here, the very first fraternity outside the Freemasonry was the Phi Beta Kappa. That's the first college fraternity here. Was founded by 5 students at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. The first meeting was held in the Apollo Room of the Old Tavern on December 5th, 1776. Now, why is this important? I'm going to explain this real quick. John Heath, the first president of Phi Beta Kappa, that's what you see in the bottom right corner here, right? Yes, was determined to develop a student society that would be much more serious-minded than its predecessor, right? And there's a couple of bullets here. The group consisted of students who frequently gathered at the Raleigh Tavern, which was a common meeting area off the college campus, in which a story began to circulate that a Masonic lodge also met at this tavern, that it was actually a lodge. But the Freemasons supposedly gathered at a different building in Williamsburg. Coincidentally, 10 of the original members later did become Freemasons. Right. So another key point I want to highlight about fraternities and sororities. There are 4 classifications of fraternities and sororities. And I know most people don't know this, but the first is what we see here on your screen: social fraternities and sororities. These are found in most colleges and universities. Right. Number 2, professional or exclusive. In other words, journalism, law, medicine, and even music. Because notice when you, especially in law, you have to still take a pledge, right, to become an official lawyer. Medicine, in order to become an official doctor, you still have to pledge, right? Then we have the Honor and Recognition Society, comprised mostly of students enrolled in colleges of arts and science. We also see some of this even on a high school level, the National Honor Society. They actually go through a ritual when they're accepting kids into that. Right. And then we have the varsitarians, which is exclusive for colleges and universities, in which students, like, for example, in a particular region or province, are able to have access to. So most fraternities and sororities, they impose secret obligations on their members and have secret or distinctive hand grips and passwords that enable the member to be acquainted with one another while verifying their common membership. So every fraternity has what is called the baptismal presentation. And so, again, for those that are watching, I encourage you to take your notes, because what I am sharing with you, this is stuff that I literally took years and years to put together. And as you can see, my brother, I'm giving you nothing but facts. I'm sharing with you information that most people don't have a clue about fraternities and sororities. Just the basis what I just shared with you, I can guarantee you, even those that are inside these fraternities and sororities don't know what I'm sharing with you. So So I encourage everyone, take notes, and go back and review this presentation. So every fraternity has what is called a baptismal presentation. And some of you guys probably asking the question, well, what is a baptismal presentation? Well, I'm glad you asked. The baptismal presentation is the first stage in all fraternities and sororities initiation rites. So a person cannot become a member without passing this stage. The first stage is called the baptismal because the applicant or recruits is baptized and given a baptismal name or alias. Kind of like, remember on school days, remember how they began to give out nicknames to each of their the people that was online, like Spike Lee's character was given Half Pint. You know, all of them were given. That is part of the baptismal presentation. That's part of that portion of the pledging. Right now they're online, right? But they have to get their names. They have to get these nicknames. They're called neophytes and all of this. In other words, they're at their infant stage. And Freemasonry is called enter apprentice, right? So this is what is called the baptismal stage. All right. So after the baptismal, the applicant is called a neophyte. And he or she lives as a slave until he or she finally becomes a member. Notice that's where they really start degrading them, having them doing all kinds of things on dog leashes, behaving in ways that's very demeaning. So just real quick, for those that are not familiar with the term neophyte means what? New convert. A new convert, newly initiated, newly converted, newly planted, right? So with that being said, what is the first fraternity in the United States? What is the first Negro fraternity in the United States? Right? Here's the first Negro fraternity in the United States, Prince Hall Freemasonry.
Wow.
The oldest Negro fraternity is the Freemasonry of Prince Hall, still dealing with Freemasonry because you had a lot of racism going on. And so guess what? The position that our ancestors were allowed, the highest position you can have is watching the door of the lodge, which is called the tireless sword. But you can hold any other position. So this is a little bit on Prince Hall, and I'm going to tie it into the fraternities and sororities shortly, but I'm just kind of building up the foundation here. So Prince Hall is recognized as the father of Black Masonry in the United States. Historically, he made it possible for Negroes to be recognized and enjoy all the privileges of free and accepted Freemasonry. A few records and papers have been found of him in Barbados, where it was rumored that he was born in 1748, but no record of his birth by church or state has been found there, and none in Boston, right? Another point I want to make. On March 6, 1775, Prince Hall and 14 men of color were made Masons in Lodge 441 of the Irish Registry, attached to the 38th British Foot Infantry. Notice, remember what I said, military, that the lodges, you always find a lodge at a military location. And it says at Castle Williams Island in Boston Harbor, Massachusetts. It marked the first time that Black men were made Masons in America. About a year later, since the conflict between England and America had commenced, the British Foot Infantry left Boston along with its lodge, leaving Prince Hall and his associates without a lodge. Before the lodge was left, now notice the name here, Worshipful Master Bot. Worshipful Master Bot gave them a permit to meet as a lodge and bury their dead in manner and form. In other words, facing the east. So this permit, however, did not allow them to do any Masonic work or to take in any new members. So under it, African Lodge was organized on July 3rd, 1776, with Prince Hall as the worshipful master. So it wasn't long before this lodge received an additional permit by the provincial Grand Master Lodge, John Rowe, to walk in procession on St. John's Day. On March 2nd, 1784, African Lodge number 1 petitioned the Grand Lodge of England, the premier or mother Grand Lodge. Notice the structure here. Still what? Under the Europeans, under this oppressive
yes,
system.
sir. Yes.
Right? And still considered as being what? Less than. So it goes on to say of the world for a warrant, in other words, a charter to organize a regular Masonic lodge with all the rights and privileges thereunto prescribed. But I want to make this clear, guys. This is a major accomplishment, right? Considering, the things that the groundbreaking for our people. But guess what? This is not the heritage that Yah had set aside for his people. Sometimes we get all pumped up and saying that, hey, we're the first blacks to do this. We're the first blacks to do that. But guess what? Yes, it may seem to be on paper a major accomplishment of what these group of Negroes had done, but this is not the heritage that Yah set aside for his people. He's not pleased at this so-called major accomplishment here, right? 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14 and 15. And, I like to give scripture too. It says, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. So guess what? We see Hasatan transforms himself into an angel of light. This is, in other words, deception, a messenger, right? But then it says that, guess what? Don't be surprised, because guess what? He has ministers too. And not only do they have ministers, they also have what? A doctrine. Right. So if Hasatan and his ministers pretend to be messengers of life, this means they also have a doctrine. So what is the doctrine of Hasatan? The doctrine of secret society. That is the doctrine of Hasatan, the doctrines of secret society. Right. And let me know, my brother,
Yes,
if I'm going too fast.
No. Go on. We need this. Listen. Share this on your timeline. Share this with everyone you know. We have a lot of people that are being tempted to become these things, even because of your struggle, even because you see the benefit of it. Know that Yah doesn't have you take an oath to anyone else. Anyone else. He doesn't have you pledge to anyone else. So think about this. Take time. Listen to Dr. Kelly, please. He's going in depth and he's giving us information that is vital.
I appreciate you, my brother. Appreciate you. So remember this, guys. And notice I like to have symbols and imagery in the background so you can see what I'm talking about. That's why this is actually an official piece of paper here. And notice you see the water stains. But I want you to make sure whenever I'm speaking on this system, right, you see that square and the compass. I'm going to talk about that, right? This is supposed to be their light, right? They consider this their light. Right? They refer to that square and compass to form that star, which is supposed to bring light. So if you cover up someone's square and compass, they're going to ask you a question. Why are you covering up what? My light. So Satan disguises himself as an angel or messenger of light. So in Masonry, the light is very important in their doctrine. See, they have what is called the 3 lesser lights. And I'm going to touch on that real quick. Here's the 3 lesser lights among the Masonic Lodge: the sun, the moon, and the master of the lodge, which is called the worshipful master. Remember, we're not supposed to call anyone master, right? But yet we see in this lodge, what are we doing? Calling each other the what? Worshipful master. The sun, the moon, and the master of the lodge is considered the 3 lights, the lesser lights. And we see that highlighted in Genesis chapter 1. So what did the Hebrew Israelite Messiah say about calling someone master? Well, let's go to Matthew 23, verse 8 through 10. He says this: be not ye called rabbi, for one is your what? Master, even the Messiah, and all ye are brethren, and call no man your father upon the earth. for one is your Father which is in heaven. Now, this is not saying that you're not supposed to call your biological father, father. This is saying exhorting men, exhorting people, idolizing them. So Freemasonry, worshipful master. We see this in Christianity and Catholicism in the hierarchy that they created that did not exist up until the 2nd century. When you see the bishops, the popes, and all these different things, now they're in that system, they are brainwashing you to do what? Call people masters, to call people what? Fathers. It's no coincidence that these people wanted us to call them masters during slavery. All right. So call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even the Messiah. So greatness, I want to make this clear. Greatness is measured by service, not by earthly honor, right? Together we are brothers and sisters to one another. One is not above or more exalted than the other. Each stands as an equal before Yahweh and one another, right? We're equal before the Most High, and we're equal among one another. So I want to make that point. I just want to reiterate that point there. So here's the pillars of Freemasonry, and this still is going to tie to when we get to the fraternities and sororities. I'll touch on that.
Yes, sir.
Touch on it just a little bit, and then we'll kind of skip down to some other stuff here, going closer to some of the fraternities and sororities. But notice here, Eliphas Levi and the Kabbalah. He's one of the pillars. What is more absurd, and more impious than to attribute the name of Lucifer to the devil. That is to personified evil. The intellectual Lucifer is the spiritual is the spirit of intelligence and love. It is the paraclete, in other words, an advocate. It is the Holy Spirit, where the physical Lucifer is the great angel of universal magnetism. Now, notice what he's doing here. Doesn't it sound like he's worshiping Lucifer? He's calling Lucifer the Holy Spirit. The great angel of, notice what it says, universal.
Whoa. Go over that one more time, please.
Let me read this again. This is one of the pillars of Freemasonry. This is Eliphas Levi, right? This is his own quotes. This is his own teachings. What is more absurd and more impious than to attribute the name of Lucifer to the devil? That is to personified evil. The intellectual Lucifer, notice what he says. The intellectual Lucifer is the spirit of intelligence and love. It is the paraclete, in other words, an advocate. It is the Holy Spirit. Now you're also saying that the Holy Spirit make intercessions for us. Where the physical Lucifer is the great angel of universal magnetism. Universal, remember, this is where you get the word Catholic from. Universal. Actually, if you break it up into two words, it means the doctrines of universe, the doctrines of unity. Uni is the Etruscan goddess of the Trinity. It's the Trinity, right? It is a Trinity. They have a triune or Capitoline triad of the triple goddess. Not trying to go geek mode on that, but that's where you get the word universe from, or universal. Uni, the doctrines of uni. Universal is interchangeable with the word Catholic. You can look it up. So it says Lucifer is the great angel of universal magnetism. Now, let me give you another reference. Now, I want to put a disclaimer here. I want to be real with you guys. Some of the stuff that I'm getting ready to share with you, a couple of sources, I'm not going to share too many of them. Please do not go out and purchase these sources and read them, and you don't have a prayer life. You don't read your word. One of the things many people would do because of itching ears, they'll go read this and don't even read the scriptures.
Listen, y'all, pay attention to that. Please pay attention to what he just said. We experienced this before on a level that was just crazy. Listen, if we're talking here, you're not praying, you're not fasting, you're not seeking the Most High. some things you should not even be reading. You know what I'm saying? Don't go into depth on this. Don't go searching this out. Take this information and take it for what he's giving to you now. Don't go exploring, trying to find things, because you'll get yourself twisted up. The Ruach is not leading y'all into all this stuff. Trust me. He's just trying to show you what the enemy has set up against us, what they've been teaching and what they've been preaching and what they have pushed on us. So don't go get these books. This is not for you to go do all that. Please, I stress that. Father, in the mighty name of Yahushua, do not let them go into this. Keep going, Dr. Kelly, please.
And I thank you, my brother, for even just putting that declaration out as well, because I have to stress this over and over again, even within our assembly when I taught it. Like, look, don't go and purchase this stuff. Don't. In many cases, I don't even put the sources there. But, you know, sometimes I have to share sources so that way people see that I'm not just giving a bunch of opinions. Right. So I thank you, my brother, for reinforcing that point, reiterating that to the people. So this is coming from Wade Baskin's Dictionary of Satanism. Right. This is what it says, what it says about Eliphas Levi. Notice what it says. It says French magician and author of works on the occult, Eliphas Levi, whose real name was Alphonse Louis Constant, claimed to have summoned up the ghost of Apollonius of Tyana in London in 1854. Born in Paris about 1810, he is said to have been reincarnated as Aleister Crowley. So see the connection between him and Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley is considered to be the reincarnation of Eliphas Levi. All right, so I just wanted to stress that point. So Eliphas Levi created an image that is popular for all the wrong reasons. And this is that image. And I'm going to bring it up real quick. I'm not going to go into all of this, but I just want to share with you. It's the Baphomet. He created the Baphomet. And many don't know that the Baphomet, and let me just read what's in the back here. The Baphomet is a hermaphrodite with breast, bisexual. So this telling you that Freemasonry is going to push what? Bisexual. It's going to push sexual perversions.
The homosexual agenda, what we see now.
Homosexual agenda.
The agendas, the alphabet people.
Exactly. And if you take it a step further, right, the Judaism, right, when you understand Judaism, they teach, right, in the Talmud that the Most High was a hermaphrodite. This is where you get the term Shekinah from, because they teach that the Most High, right, they teach that before God. I'm just going to use the term what they will use. God before God, his name is supposed to be Ein Sof, which means the infinite one. He built the heavens and earth because he wanted to find himself. In other words, he didn't have confidence. He wanted to what? Find himself. He wanted to discover who he is, right? So they break down this, and I have it here, but I'm just going to, talk on it now so that way we can save some time. But they, in the Jewish mysticism, they teach that they have created his body. They have a diagram of his body, which is called the 10 Sephirah. And the 10 Sephirah, right, you'll see it's supposed to be what? The body of the Most High, right? And when you get to the bottom portion of it, when you get to the torso, and then you get lower beyond the torso, you see the reproductive organs. You'll see what is called the Yesod, which is the male reproductive organ. And then you will see what is called the Shekinah or Shekinah. That's the female reproductive organ. So what they teach is that the Most High is an hermaphrodite. Right.
Okay, so you're saying what they say about the Shekinah glory.
So the Shekinah is supposed to be the feminine side of the Most High.
Oh, wow.
Right. The Shekinah glory is supposed to be the feminine side of the Most High. So they teach that the Most High have dual reproductive organs, male and female.
All right. That is a lie.
So this is why we see. Notice here, this original image of Baphomet has breasts. That's what many don't truly understand. Here in this image, this is one of the statues that was erected in Georgia also in Detroit, and also in, I believe, Oklahoma. They start putting these public statues up. And notice it has a Caucasian girl and a black boy. Right? But here, you see have a chest of a man. But up here in the original image, what do you see? Breasts. It is a hermaphrodite. All right. So the other portion I want to highlight, the other pillar of Freemasonry I want to highlight, is a life is levy. And then we could fast forward to some of the other stuff here. But I just wanted to just kind of show the people the pillars here and see the demonic stuff that's associated with them. So one of the first Americans to come under the influence of a life is levy was the noted Masonic writer Albert Pike. Now, this is coming from his works, Moral and Dogma, right? Reveal entire sections that Albert Pike took verbatim from the works of Eliphas Levi, right? So the foundation of Freemasonry is Judaism, right? The foundation of Freemasonry is going to bring you into Judaism. It's going to bring you into Jewish mysticism. Now, this is coming out of one of his publications, as I pointed out here, Albert Pike's Moral and Dogma. And I'm just going to share a few quotes here. Lucifer, the light bearer, strange and mysterious, name to give to this spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning. Is it he who bears the light, and with its splendor, intolerable blinds, feeble, sensual, or selfish souls? Doubt it not. Notice how he's worshiping Lucifer and calling him the light bearer, right? That which we must say to a crowd. Now, notice what he says, that we worship what? A God. Make a note of that. That's important. He's saying, even though internally they know that they're worshiping Lucifer, but to the public, they're going to say we worship a God, right? See, we have to be careful, right? Because we living in a day and time versus 20 years ago. If you said you believe in God, for the most part, everyone knew that you were referring to the Most High. But guess what? Now in the day and time that we live in, if you say somebody say that they believe in God, you have to ask them the question, what God are you referring to?
That is so true now, because people have took on these other things, and you don't know who's who nowadays. You don't know who's who. That's why, and you look at it, you everybody talking about, oh yeah, praise the Lord. Well, who you talking about? I have to question you now, because your life looks like a bowl of spaghetti, and you live in everything contrary to the Most High. You can't be talking about the Most High.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And make a note of this. You notice where it says we worship what? A God. Now, for many of you that may not be familiar with the Hebrew language, right? The Hebrew language does not have indefinite articles. A God is an indefinite article. A is an indefinite article. It adds ambiguity. It's generic. So they say we worship a God. It's a generalized term, but in their minds, they know who they're referring to. From the public perspective, they're going to fill in the blanks and thinking that they're serving the Most High, which actually they're not referring. So a God in Greek, they does not have indefinite articles as well, right? And only in the American English, right, outside of that we're dealing with, and other languages as well, but English has both definite and indefinite articles. And the Hebrew language is always definite, no indefinite articles, right? So you won't see a God there, right? You won't see any ambiguity in the text. Same thing when you understand the Greek language as well. But here we see we worship a God, but it is the God that one adores without superstition. To you, Sovereign Grand Inspector General, we say this that you may repeat it. So he's saying that we saying this just so that way the people think that we serving the same God that they serve, right? So this is a statement based on Gnosticism. So what is Gnosticism, right? This is coming from the Oxford Dictionary. Gnosticism, a prominent heretical movement of the 2nd century Christian church, partly of pre-Christian origin. Gnostic doctrine taught that the world was created and ruled by what? A lesser divinity, the demiurge, and that the Messiah was an emissary of the remote supreme being, divine being. Esoteric knowledge, in other words, Gnosis, of whom enabled the redemption of humankind. So they teach, Gnosticism teach that the Messiah is a demigod, right? Islam teach that the Messiah is what? A demigod. Many religions, and matter of fact, even those within Christianity teach that Christ is a demigod, right? So that's what Gnosticism is. Many of them teach that Christ did not become a deity until after he was raised from the dead. That was the primary argument at the Council of Nicaea in 321, was the divinity of Christ, of the Messiah, rather. You know, Athanasius, right, took the approach that was what would be considered orthodox, that, hey, the Messiah was always divine. He is not a created being. But Arius took the side of that the Messiah is a created being, that he did not become a deity until after he was resurrected. We still see a lot of this playing out today. So I just want to give clarity for those that are not familiar with this, that term. So going back to Albert Pike, right? He says the Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the higher degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. This is Freemasonry, right? He's calling it what? Sir. The Luciferian doctrine. All right. He goes on to say the sun represents the actual light. He pours upon the moon his funk-dating rays. Both shed their lights upon their offsprings, the blazing star, or Horus. Notice what we said, the star, right? Or Horus. Mm-hmm. And the three form the great equilateral triangle, in the center of which is the omnific letter of the Kabbalah. Notice he said Kabbalah. And now when we understand the three lesser lights, right, in the temple, right, or the Masonic lodge, remember we said the sun, moon, and the worshipful master, they form the trinity, the triangle of the lodge. Right. Wow. There, that's why the worshipful master is called what? The worshipful master. Yeah. So it's telling you that this is what? Taking you right into the Kabbalah, right? And it goes on to say, and just a couple more bullets of him, in the first of the three Persian Amshapans, notice what it says. It says lords of light, fire, and splendor. Now we're dealing with the elements. We recognize the Ahor or Zohar and Zayo, light, splendor, and brightness of what? The Kabbalah. Masonry is a search after light. That search leads us directly back, as you see, to what? As he said here, the Kabbalah. All right. So let's fast forward a little more. I just want to highlight one last point. Philo calls it the universal light, which lose a portion of its purity and splendor in descending from the intellectual to the sensible world, manifesting itself outwardly from the deity. And the Kabbalah represents that only so much of the infinite light flowed into the circular void prepared for creation. All truly dogmatic religions have issued from the Kabbalah and returned to it. So now he's giving all kinds of homage, paying all kinds of homage to the Kabbalah, which tells you that he's dealing with what? Judaism. So we also see the Jewish community hands is deeply integrated with Freemasonry. All right. And it goes on to say, look at what it says here. It's borrowed from the Kabbalah. He gives what? Jacob Boehm, Swedenborg, Saint Martin, and others is borrowed, saying that they borrowed from the Kabbalah. In other words, Jewish mysticism. All the Masonic associations owe to it their secrets and their what? Symbols.
Symbols.
All right. And it goes on to say, again, grand religious dream of the Illuminati. Let me just highlight the Illuminati real quick so people understand the Illuminati. Because truth be told, Jay-Z is a billionaire. He would not be in the true Illuminati. Not a single Negro would be in the Illuminati.
None.
Right? So Illuminati, it means enlighten, light up, make light, illuminate, name of a secret society, right? Holding deistic and republican principles, right? So let me highlight real quick the Illuminati of Bavaria. This is coming from Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, right? And again, guys, I'm making it clear. Don't start trying to delve into this stuff and you don't have a prayer life.
Please,
right?
please listen.
What I'm
listen.
sharing.
Please listen to what he's saying. Please don't go pick these books up. It's not for you. We're just telling you this so you won't go astray by getting hopeful that they're offering me to be a Mason, or they offer my kid to be in a Greek program, or they offer my daughter to be in a sorority. No, they worship Satan. They worship Lucifer. They follow after the order of darkness. And this is why we're showing this to you. Please don't go get this. Father, do not let them be tempted to even go look into this. In the mighty name of Yahushua. Keep going, Dr. Kelly.
And so what we see here from their own doctrine, right, that I highlighted, you see where it says Illuminati of Bavaria, a secret society found on May 1st, 1776 by Adam Weishaupt, who was a professor of canon law at the University of Ingolstadt. Its founder at first called it the Order of the Perfectibilists, but he subsequently gave it the name by which it is now universally known. Its professed object was by the mutual assistance of its members to obtain the highest possible degree of morality and virtue, and to lay the foundation for the reformation of the world by association of good men to oppose the progress of moral evil. To give to the order a higher influence, Weishaupt connected it with the Masonic institution. In other words, guess what? They have an influence over the Freemasons, but guess what? You can't go from the Freemasons to the Illuminati. You can't. We could be Masons. Our people could be Masons, but we cannot be Illuminati. Right? So it in its internal organization of the Order of Illuminati was divided into three great classes. Notice we still seeing what? Three greats. We saw the three lesser lights. We see here the three great classes: the nursery, symbolic Freemasonry, and number three, the mysteries, each of which was subdivided into several degrees, making 10, and all as in the table following table. Guys, you have to understand, even when you start understanding the Hebrew letters, right? The three, right, which is the gamal, means maturity. That's, you notice every organization has at least 3 degrees. That third, when you see number 3, that's the level of maturity. And then when you see 10, right, that's the yad. Right now we're dealing with redemption. This is telling you that they're establishing their own redemption, form of redemption, contrary to the Most High. Going back to that shield, going back to what we explained about what salvation is, right? And so 10, that's the numerical value of the yad, redemption. So notice what it says here: novice, Minerval, right? That's key right there. Illuminatus, minor. So the Oxford Dictionary of Minerval, right? We see it here. It points to a goddess, right? That's why I want to I'll highlight here real quick. All right. So going back here, listen to what he says here. If Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, whose deeds prove his cruelty and hatred of men, barbarism and repulsion for science, would Adonai and his priests calumniate him? Or excuse me for butchering the word. Yes, Lucifer is. Notice what he says. Yes, Lucifer is who? God. And unfortunately, Adonai is also. You notice what he says. They are worshiping Lucifer. He says, for the eternal law is that there is no light without shade, no beauty without ugliness, no white without black. For the absolute can only exist as two gods, darkness being necessary to the statue and the break to the locomotive. Right? So thus, the doctrines of Satanism is a heresy, and the true and pure philosophical religion is the belief of Lucifer, the equal of Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light, God of good, is struggling for humanity against Adonai, the God of darkness and evil. You see how he paid homage to him. He paid homage to him. And if you go back to the reference that I made, they are actually giving you the authority of Albert Pike, telling you that he was very prevalent within Freemasonry, right? This is his positions that he held. Scottish rites, you know, when you start getting into the blue house and all that other stuff, I'm not getting into all of that, you know. But it says here, notice what it says: an honorary member of almost every supreme council in the world. The KKK is part of this supreme this council. The Moors, the Kemet community, all of them they are subjected to these guys. All right, Albert Pike. Now, the last point I want to make. Remember when I said about a God, right? That they have to say a God just for the sake of disguising who they truly worship. This is John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim. Some will say Elohim, but the translation will say God. And the Word was Elohim, or God, or again, Elohim for others that will say Elohim, right? But this is the New World Translation of the Jehovah's Witness Bible. This is what they say. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was what? A God. Now we see an indefinite article there. Is that a coincidence? No, because the founder was a Mason. He did a lot of teaching inside the Masonic Lodge. But notice what it says. The Word was a God. Remember what we said about what Albert Pike said? That which we must say to a crowd, we worship what? A God. Right? You see how it all ties in together? It ties in together. So I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm just showing you like some of the symbols. Look at the symbol on one of the watchtowers early on, 1920. And notice what you see here. The Knights of the Templar, right? That's the same symbol, right? I'm not going to get into all of this, but this is some of the messages that he gave making reference to Freemasonry. And you could, if you guys want to look up his source, just make us do a search on the Temple of God by Charles Taze Russell. He did it at a convention from the periods of 1906 through 1916. That's 10 years, right? But I'm not going to get into all of this. I'm going to fast forward for the sake of time. But notice this. This is his where he's buried at. Look at what's on his burial. You see a pyramid. And notice that symbol of the Templar, the Knights of the Templar. All right. So we see the influence of Freemasonry on religion. All right. Riding the goat. That's just dealing with pledging. I'm not going to get into all of this because that can take up a lot of time. Let me see here. This is another thing I want to highlight real quick. Let me go to here. I accidentally went back. As you can see, this is a very large presentation. Let's see here.
Yes, sir. We're definitely going to come up with a part 2 for it. Definitely.
Right. Man, I don't want to skip on this. Let me highlight this here. Right. Riding the goat. I just don't want to get with I won't go to that source, but I want to just make sure you understand the goat. Right. Yes, Leviticus chapter 17, verse 7. Right. It says this. And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, right? Shaya, yeah. Right? But unfortunately, that really doesn't give us this particular transliteration of the text really doesn't give us the full extent of what it's saying in this text, right? But when we see here and we look at the definition here, notice what it says though. It says shaggy as noun, a he-goat. Right? Notice it's making reference to he-goat, devil, goat, hairy, kid. Still dealing with what? A goat. Right? So now in other Bible translations, and I want to make this clear for those that are watching, I'm just showing you that this for presentation for educational use and showing you the importance to study the Hebrew for yourself and actually know how these scriptures are being transliterated. Now, I don't deal with the Message Bible, but I'm just using this for the sake of the presentation to give you an illustration. The Message Bible is what is called a paraphrase Bible. I call it a mess. It's not a transliteration. It's not a translation. Actually, all Bibles are a transliteration, but it is a paraphrase Bible, right? But nevertheless, it says this: they must no longer offer their sacrifices to what? Goat demons, a kind of religious orgy. Now, the reason why I'm showing this because this gives you more clarity actually than what the KJV transliteration of this particular verse does. Because it says what? Goat demons and what? A kind of religious orgy.
Wow.
When we go to the NIV, it says they must no longer offer any of their sacrifices to the goat idols to whom they prostitute themselves. So I'm just showing you different transliterations. So again, I don't support the NIV. I don't support the Message Bible. I don't want to go geek mode, but they all tie into what is called the Alexandria manuscripts, which is broken down into two codexes. All right. The Codex Sinaiticus, the Codex Vaticanus, which we know that the Codex Vaticanus refers to the Catholic Church, which supposedly they found their copy of the this manuscript in like the 15th century in the garbage can. Go figure. Right. But again, when you see the NIV, the Message Bible, and a lot of the newer translations, the modern translations, they all come from this particular manuscript, which is still a corrupt text, right? So I just wanted to highlight that, and that's why you'll see certain verses still that's like in unison with these Bible translations. You won't see Matthew chapter 17, verse 21. That verse is missing, and other verses in these Bibles that are based off this manuscript. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly. So who is the biblical goat demon in this text? Well, Leviticus chapter 17, verse 7 again, it says, it's 18, chapter 21. That's what the actual text. It says, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to who? Molech. Right? So Molech is the goat demon. Right.
Wow. The Baphomet.
This is the what many would call the goat of Mendez. Many of Kemet guys will refer to that, to try to downplay the Baphomet, but it's still the goat demon. Why is this significant? Just another geek mode moment I'm going to share with you guys. You see that fire right there? This is what is referred to as the belly of the beast. Right? Why is that important? Well, this is where the Hebrew young men were tossed in. They were tossed in what was called the belly of the beast. They were tossed into the belly of a Molech idol. All right. So just want to give clarity with that. Belly of the beast. That's where you get the belly of the beast from. So
this is where, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
This is where they had called the presidents. If you understand, this was what was in the Hillary Clinton letters, the emails that she was talking about, the sacrificing of the kids. They were sacrificing the Molech. Yeah. And if you know about where the presidents go, up to some spot in California where they go, and they have the actual same statue that you showed, that they go up there and they sacrifice to Molech.
Yeah, it's a lot of sacrifices that are happening. There's a lot of our brothers and sisters going missing. Yes. Right, in this country. Matter of fact, if you even look at Israel, there's a lot of, every year over 200,000 people go missing in Israel.
Wow.
In this country, so many of our brothers and sisters are missing, finding bodies without heads, organs missing from them.
Yes, sir.
This is real here, guys. This is real. Matter of
Very
fact,
much
in
real.
DC, the Northern Virginia area, the DMV area, they you know, it is actually a situation going on that many are brushing over, that many of our young women are disappearing at very high abnormal numbers.
Wow.
Is it a coincidence that many of our sisters are practicing witchcraft in that area too?
Wow.
But many of
So-
them are coming up missing, to your point.
So witchcraft is real strong in that area.
It's strong. It's strong across the country, but it's strong up in that area. There's a lot of
Yes, sir.
symbolism. Matter of fact, you have the whole entire DC area. Masons designed it. You have the
Yes, sir.
compass right there in this, right there,
Sim-
throughout the whole city.
Yes,
You have
sir.
the pen, you know, Cleopatra's needle, and you know, right there, which they call it the what? The monument.
Mm.
Right. So
Go ahead, Al.
going to this source right here. This is a great source, right? This is one of the sources from school ages ago, but this is a great source right here, right? The Oxford Dictionary of the Jewish Religion, right? Now listen to what they say about Molech. And this is going to give you more of an idea how it ties into Freemasonry. Semitic deity worship in biblical times, known from Ugaritic in Mesopotamia, sourced as Malik. It is likely that Molech figure among the Chthonic or tonic gods, that is, those associated with death and the underworld, according to the biblical tradition. And I want to add this to this real quick. In Hebrew, you'll see the term Malak, right? It transliterates to messenger, but also in other cultures like the Ammonites, it was the name of their god, right? So this is where you start understanding loaned words, right? The Egyptians have loaned words. As a matter of fact, Israel have loaned words that's within some of our vocabulary, starting when we understand the word Moshe, which comes from the primitive root Masha. We see right in the text that that word was borrowed from the Egyptians. Why? Because we know that Masha or Moshe, that is what means son of in Egypt, among the Egyptian culture. So when you see Moses, that means what? The son of who? Ra. When you see Tut Moses, son of Tut. But Moses could not take on the son of, because we already, the scriptures identify who his father is, and he was not part of the bloodline of any of those of the Pharaoh of that time. So the his daughter, Pharaoh's daughter, what did she do? She took that name and gave it a different meaning. Masha means what? Water, taken out of the water. Does that make sense, guys? I hope that helps you guys. Just so that way we don't get caught up in from a perspective of, well, someone come at you and say, hey, you saying we see Molech, right? Molech is over here. See, you guys are worshiping this guy. No, there are loaned words in every culture, right? When you have communities that are in proximity of each other or having interactions, trade or whatever. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that real quick. So according to biblical tradition, Molech was worshipped by means of child sacrifice, a practice Israelite belief. And it gives scriptures here. Child sacrifice is condemned in the Bible, but notice what it says, without mentioning the god of the god Molech. Didn't we just highlight that in the scriptures?
Yes.
But they're saying that the god Molech is not mentioned. Child sacrifices is mentioned, but not Molech. But let me show you why I said that, right? Because I want to take you to the Talmud, because unfortunately, many of our brothers and sisters in this truth are going to the Talmud and teaching our people out of this anti-Torah doctrine. But look at what it says here. This is what the Jewish, what they call it, the other Jewish rabbinical literature. This is what it says about Molech. It teaches that it's okay to sacrifice to Molech. Listen to what it says, the Mishnah, right? He who gives of his seed to Molech incurs no punishment unless he delivers it to Molech and causes it to pass through the fire. Now, this is saying that, hey, you can give your seed to Molech to serve him, but you're not what? Sacrifice him into the fire. If he gave it to Molech, but did not cause it to pass through the fire, or the reverse, he incurs no penalty unless he does both. That's not in the scripture that we just read. It goes on to say, the Mishnah teaches idolatry in giving to Molech, right? The rabbi goes on to say, our Mishnah is in accordance with the view that Molech worship is not idolatry. Let me read that again. Our Mishnah is in accordance with the view that Molech worship is not idolatry. For it has been taught, if one causes his seed to pass through the fire, whether to Molech or to any other idol, he is liable to death. But then you have two rabbis that they mentioned, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Simeon. It says, if to Molech, he is liable. If to another idol, he is not liable. Notice they're still what? Saying that it's okay to worship Molech and also sacrifice your children to these idols depending on your angle on it.
Wow.
So
wow.
the Talmud endorses the worship of the goat demon. Last point I want to make, what Freemasonry is going to teach you, what the Talmud is going to teach you, what the Kabbalah is going to teach you. I want to give this last point here before we get into all the other stuff. This is important right here, right? The word, the God, right? In Freemasonry, let me go back here. They'll teach that the letter G stands for geometry, because many will teach that the universal language is mathematics, right? But then few will say it stands for G as in God, right? But notice you see it's an acronym on your screen. Let me share with you what it actually means. Going back to the source, the initials Gomer, Az, Dabar. Those are Hebrew words, right? Gomer, Az, Dabar. Make a note of Gomer for you guys that are watching. Make a note of this. It is a singular coincidence and worthy of thought that the letters composing the English name of deity should be the initials of the Hebrew word wisdom, strength, and beauty. The three great pillars or metaphorical supports of Masonry. They seem to present almost the only reason that can reconcile a Mason to the use of the initial G in its conspicuous suspension in the east of the lodge in the place of the delta, which is the triangle, right? The Yanni. The incident seems to be more than an incident. They're making it clear that it's no coincidence that you see that letter G there, right? That letter G means God, but as you see, it's upside down here. But Gomer, which means beauty, right? Strength, Oz, wisdom, Dabar. That's what they say it means, right? So this is, when you see that letter G, right? It actually means the worship of Gomer. Let me say that again. That letter G represents the worship of Gomer. God, their God. The worship of Gomer. Why is this important? Because Gomer is the father of who? Let me bring it up on your screen, give you an illustration. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz. The sons of who? Gomer, Ashkenaz. So ultimately, the worship of Gomer, you're going to worship his descendants, Ashkenaz. What are we dealing with right now?
Ashkenazi Jews.
Everything that I read to you is paying homage to the Ashkenazis. It's paying homage to Judaism. It's paying homage to the Kabbalah. It's paying homage to their gods. Yeah. And they consider themselves as a god.
Wow. This is great info, Dr. Kelly. This is great info. We needed to hear this.
So I wanted to share that with you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, my brother.
No. It's okay. It's just that this is giving you breakdown of how the enemy operates and where his origination came from. This stuff, like you said, the scripture says, is nothing new up under the sun. They've been doing this for thousands of years. Their name might have changed, but their plan has never changed, and the way they do things has never changed. They've been doing the same thing for generation, for generation, for generation, and we're seeing it now. And our people are picking up on it more and not even knowing what they're going into. And some know and some don't. But like we said, all this comes with a price. Once you sell out to that enemy, it comes with a price. The pledge of that shield, it comes, now you know what you're getting into. Now you know, you have no excuse. You can't say I didn't know after the day. You can't say I didn't tell, y'all understand. No, y'all don't understand, because he's made it known to you now. He's made it known to you now. Don't let your kids go into things of that nature. We can't let them associate. We don't want our people to be policemen. We don't want them to be part of these different governmental organizations that are actually run by Masons. So you're saying you're pledging to the government, you're pledging to Freemasonry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit it right on the nail. And here's a key prophecy, because this is a prophecy, guys. Biblical foundation, Genesis 9:27. This is a prophecy right here that many brush over. Elohim, and again, some would say Elohim, shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell, Yashab, in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Right? Every fraternity, again, every sorority promotes the worship of Gomer. Right? And
yes,
look at these images that are being placed among our people. Right? This is, man, I wish I didn't go over it too quick, but what's her name? Julia. I can't see her last name, but this is where the image of the Virgin Mary comes from. Of Mary. Yeah. This is the person right here. This is the lady that they use as an image of the Virgin Mary, that they call the Virgin Mary. We already know about Caesar Borgia, even though we could take it even back before Caesar Borgia, when we start getting into what's the guy, Ptolemy, is it Semiramis? Yeah, Semiramis. That's it. Right. That, that's a Caucasian. That's where you start seeing them when they start using what images of people, instead of animals to worship. And he was one of the reasons why you see a Caucasian face starting at his time moving forward in Egypt on a lot of their some of their statues and all.
Yes, sir.
So this is a key prophecy to confirm that. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4, about what I just highlighted about the descendants of Japheth dwelling in the tents of Shem. It says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first. In other words, those that are falling away from the truth. Right? We live in a time right now. We have the Great Awakening, but in conjunction with the Great Awakening, we see the great falling away. You can't fall away from something that you don't know. So you get presented with this truth and you decide to reject it. You are now falling away. You could be lost because you don't have a clue of what this information. But now that, as my brother just pointed out, now that you know this information, if you reject it, now you become fallen away. 2 Thessalonians is really talking about those that have fallen away. It says, except there come a falling away first, and the son of man, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. But notice what it says here, who opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called Elohim or Elohim, or that is worshipped. So you see, they took the image of our Messiah and made an image for themselves and forced our people to worship. They created an image of Mary, even though Mary was never worshipped, but they took an image of Mary. And now guess what? They have our people worshiping these images, ultimately worshiping them. That's why we as a people are sick. Think about what it does to the psychology of a slave who's been stripped of everything. Now you are taught to worship a Messiah that looks just like your oppressor. That's why we are sick as a people. That's where you get into cognitive dissonance. That's where you get into Stockholm syndrome. Cognitive dissonance is nothing more than just simply means contradictory behavior, right? Stockholm syndrome is what? You loving your oppressor, you loving your rapist, you loving the criminal, the perpetrator who did this to you. So it's saying this group is going to exalt themselves above all the things that the Most High has set aside to be holy, his son, which is the Messiah. Even Israel themselves, Israel is a set aside people. And for himself to be worshiped, their community to be worshiped. I just shared with you who it is, right? So that's the first portion of it that I want to highlight, that, you know, we could continue on. This is a pretty lengthy presentation, but I want to deal with that, set the foundation. And matter of fact, if you want, I can touch on a little bit of the fraternities, and then we could do a part 2 if you want.
Yeah, definitely. Let's bring it all into a part 2, even with, you know, going on the fraternities. You know, we want to give you an overview, but I definitely, if we can come back next Wednesday, okay with you. If you check your calendar, please let me know. But we have to have this understanding, and this is great because a lot of us, especially I have to say it, down south, we see a lot of this going on. We see a lot of the people we see sororities and fraternities real strong down south, especially amongst the HBCUs. And they're trying to make a movement again to send everybody to the HBCUs. And what's waiting for you is what we just showed you. What's waiting for you is we just showed you the indoctrination of being part of this. All this that you see is Masonic based. Everything. The worship of the beast. This is what we're talking about right here. This is what you need to know. And please don't go try to get any of this material, what we talked about. That's not for you to do. Let us break it down to you. Let Dr. Kelly come back and let him give you understanding. Part 2 is going to go in the depths on the Greeks. We're going to go in the depths and we're going to break it down for you so you see. This is not for your kids. And you that are part of the Greek, you know the oath that you took. You know that pledge was not against the Most High. It has nothing to do with the Most High. You can't say Yah has called you to that. No, he has not. You can go on, Dr. Kelly.
You hit it right on the nail, my brother. And you know, we as parents, we owe it to our children. And if there's any leaders that are leading people, you owe it to the people that you're leading to teach what we're teaching here, to open their eyes to the information that we're sharing. You owe it to them. All right. And you will be held accountable if you don't. You will be held accountable. Right. You have to, as watchmen, you have to, literally call it out. You have to make the people aware, whether they listen or not. Let me skip down. Go ahead, my brother.
Let me say this. And y'all gonna judge you ones that are sitting up here, Masons, and how you gonna preach the word? And you know it's going against what you cannot follow two masters. You cannot serve two masters. Understand that you cannot serve two masters. You a lie, you a hypocrite, you a fake, you a phony. If you continue on this after the day knowing this truth, Yah is against you. He's not for you. He's not for you polluting this junk and pushing it to our kids and our people and our young people. Our young people are being caught up and their minds are being seduced in the midst of these churches and even at some of these assemblies and camps where y'all still practicing Freemasonry, and some of y'all are Greek and Greeks, and a lot of y'all are police. The Most High is against you. You cannot serve two masters. Why you think he said, come up out of her and touch not the unclean thing and he'll receive us? A lot of y'all hands are dirty. You can go ahead, Dr. Mason. We can finish up with this.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the nail, though. You hit it right on the nail. And I'm just going to deal with the deltas for now. And we could go into depth next time we come back. Yes, but I'm going to use the deltas. I'm going to deal with the deltas just so that way I can tie them into, show how they tie into Freemasonry. And not just them, but others. But we'll deal with the deltas for now. Look at her hand, right? Now she's forming what is called the Yanni, but she also is forming a pyramid, right? Remember we talked about the hexagram, right? She's forming a female reproductive organ. In the Kabbalah, the Shekinah or the Shekinah. But notice what it says here. This is coming from the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, their grand chapter, their ritual book, page 30, right? This is coming right out of their doctrine. It says, National President, we believe in a spiritual life, but we leave to the individual the selection of the medium for its outward manifestation. Now, medium, you have two key words, medium, right? And you have media, right? Medium, media is the plurality of medium. Medium basically is different ways or things that are used to tap into what many would call the dark side or the spiritual realm. Like the Ouija board is a medium, right? An example of a medium. The 8-ball is an example of medium. Tarot cards are examples of mediums. You know, even fraternities and sororities are examples of what? Mediums. Right? So it says here, we believe in a spiritual life, but we leave it to the individual. They're saying they don't tell the individuals what to believe in. They tell them, hey, they have to use their own path to righteousness. But I'm going to show you that that's not true. These are some of the images that I mentioned, right? The Ouija board, many people don't know that the Ouija board was actually called the Egyptian luck board. William Folt is a Jew. He created this, right? You got the tarot cards, right? You got the palm reading. All of this, these are mediums, right? Actually, the worship of the so-called pineal gland. That is a medium, right? That is a medium, allowing your body to become a medium, a portal for demonic stuff. Right here we have the 8-ball, the magic ball. Right, going back here. Notice that Ouija board, that dial. That dial is what? A portal.
Yes, sir, it is.
You know, still representing the pyramid. That what? Triangle. That Trinity. Triple goddess.
Yes, sir.
Right. So this is what it says in their doctrine. Right, going back into the same another reference here, Delta Sigma Authority, Theta Sorority, Incorporated Grand Chapter Membership Intake Program. It says that is why Minerva.
This is the membership intake program.
That's
They're giving
right.
this to the members when you come in.
That's right. That is why, and sometimes they can be so caught up because many of them are young, you know, not paying attention to what's going on, and parents didn't prepare them. So a lot of this stuff just go over their heads, you know, going to college, a lot of stuff that was thrown at me in orientation and all that went over my head because when you're young, you just caught up in what you want to see. But this is in their intake program. This is even in their song. That is why Minerva, the goddess of wisdom, is our what? Sorority mentor. Wow, remember when I showed you Minerva and the three foundations when I was dealing with the Illuminati, and Minerva was one of them?
Yes.
Right? But this is someone that walked away. And what's sad about her is that our community began to attack her. When I say our community, I'm not just talking about those that are awake. I'm talking about our community as a whole, right? Those that are in this truth and outside this truth began to harass her because she walked away from her sorority. This is an article, and it says here, I am denouncing my membership with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. When I first joined, I was so blinded by my desires to be part of the organization and didn't focus on the Most High's will. She goes on to say, also, if the organization is founded on Christian principles, why did the founders think that it's okay to place Minerva, the Roman goddess, on the shield that I wore wore across my heart.
Mm.
So that shield, her shield is placed over your heart, making sure that you are reminded that you are using your life as a pledge, collateral. Wow. This is Minerva, right? Roman goddess of wisdom, and the moon derived from the Etruscan goddess Minara. Remember when I talked about the Etruscan? This is what dealing with the Trinity. See, the Trinity is not monopolized by the Roman Catholics. The Trinity is a pagan doctrine. That was what's his name? Tertullian saw what they would call a concept, an idea, right? When he saw the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, he saw that and brought that idea to the text and start pushing this Trinitarian doctrine, Trinitias. So notice what it says, Etruscans. Remember what I talked about, the doctrine of universal, universe, uni, the triple goddess. Now notice what it says, probably a crone aspect of the original Capitoline triad. In the Capitoline triad, where you see crone, that is normally what is also called the hag, which is the old woman that's in the statues of the triple goddess. I'm not sure if you ever saw it. You have one that's considered the damsel, that's the virgin, and in the middle you have the which is called the mother. Her hand is over her womb, and then you see the last person, which is the old hag, right? They call it the hag, or they call it the crone, which is what? An old lady, an older lady, right? Wow. This is all part of what is called the Capitoline triad, also Trinity, also the uni. It's interchangeable. You cannot get away from it. So it says a Latinized Athene, right? Giving you what? Different terms for her in different cultures. Latin, Athene. It says her totem was the same as Athene, Lilith, and the Welsh goddess Bloodwet and Owl. This is where you start getting into the cartoon. What is that? The Ice Witch. You know what I mean? If you start paying attention to the Huntsman Part 2, you'll see these images there, which consequently became known as the bird of wisdom and of witches. This is the Capitoline triad I mentioned. You see the virgin or the damsel, the mother, notice where her hand is over the womb, and this is the hag or the crone, right? The triple goddess, right? Remember this scene, right, at the Grammys years ago when Beyonce was pregnant? I remember when I made a note of this because I was like, wait a minute. They are in a position of these guys right here. It's reverse. The damsel, the mother, she's pregnant, and her mother, who is what? The crone.
Wow, witches.
And notice what she have around her neck. The uni.
Wow.
The Yanni.
Witches.
The Omega symbol. And notice what she has here. This is what the Catholic Church, the Pope has. You see, this is no coincidence, guys. The symbols are all in front of us, but sometimes we get caught up in the entertainment and don't pay attention to the ramifications that they are programming your mind. Remember that from the Huntsman? The owl bloodwet. Right? So getting back here, going back into their doctrine, right? The most direct line of descent from Greek societies to America is what? The Freemasons, right? Called Masons. Historians of American fraternities and sororities trace most of our rituals, ceremonies, and rites back to who? The Masons.
Wow.
I'm going to stop right here because I could go further with her, and I'll save this for next week. But I at least wanted to touch on this here. I didn't want to just leave the people hanging, but just give you a little, just a touch on it to show you that even they have in their handbook telling you that their fraternity and sorority is grounded on Freemason.
And listen, we thank you for your time, Dr. Kelly, man. This is Dr. Kelly Richardson. Please follow him on Facebook. You can follow him on YouTube as well at We Woke Now. Listen, follow Dr. Kelly. He has a ton of information that would definitely help you. He's a blessing to the kingdom, and I wish more platforms would utilize you in understanding what you have for us. And our people are going down these paths, and we're not speaking against this. We're not bringing this information to the light, and we have to shed light on this, because this is where our people perish for lack of knowledge. You can't say now that you don't know. This is going to be circulating. We pray the Most High circulate this to millions of people. We pray for millions of views, not for the purpose of monetary gain, but the purpose of deliverance and salvation for Israel, for his people. Then we want you to understand what you're getting into, what's really happening, what's really going on, what's really at hand, and people are not even paying attention. I know I've been into so many different places. And I've never paid attention to orientation like I used to. I just wanted to get through orientation. I just want to get through it. And then at the end, they just sign your name on it. You're not even knowing what you're signing. You're not knowing what you're getting into, but now you know. Now you know. A lot of us are so caught up in the American scheme that we're pushing our kids, trying to raise them to go be in the military, go raise them to be in police. Listen, you're going to conform when you go join these police departments. They're killing other officers that don't conform. They have this lock, stock, and barrel.
And another point, also, when you start getting them into sports, the AAU has a shield, and many parents are passing their children through the fire because they're trying to chase dreams.
Yes.
So, like you pointed out, these symbols are all around us. These institutions are all around us.
Yes,
we're not supposed to sacrifice our children to the fire. And guess what? If you pledge into these even AAU programs, you could be sacrificing your children to those shields as well.
And let me say this, because I listen, the Ruach is so prevalent. The Most High is just wonderful. And let me say this, he's going too far. No, he's not going too far. He's helping you save your kids, because there's a price to pay for kids going to the NBA. There are more superstars on the street that could have been superstars, but were not. A lot chose because they didn't want to get down with the get down.
Yeah.
Don't think that you just made it because you made it. You made it because you made a choice to confirm. Do you think they just handed $100 million contracts to anybody? There's a price to pay for this. Oh no, Steph Curry got there on his merits. No, Steph Curry did. Yeah, he's a great shooter, but for that money to be issued, you go through the ringer for that mentally, and they want to see where you're at, and you're gonna make sure you pledge them when you sign that contract.
That's right, and they call it a fraternity. If you notice what the athletes call it, they call whatever sports they're in a fraternity.
Yes, sir.
And they all about protecting and wearing that shield and receiving whatever salvation that comes with the territory. You hit it right on the nail, Oct. I really appreciate it.
Oh, man, we appreciate you, Dr. Kelly. Thank you for your time. Listen, thank you for just coming in and being a blessing to us, giving us this wisdom, giving us this understanding. I pray that the Most High just bless your home, bless your ministry, bless everything around you, everything that your hands go to do. I pray for the Most High for a shield of protection. And we need to pray for Dr. Kelly, because this information is what's tearing down the kingdom. It's tearing down the works of darkness. It's tearing down the kingdom of darkness. And we need to pray for our mores, pray for our leaders that are bringing this truth like this, because don't think they're not a target. So we have to pray for y'all. Loose warfare and angels, loose them to guard and protect every way you go. We bind accidents, near accidents, head-on collisions, broadside hits, fender benders, brake problems, engine problems, flat tires, and blowouts. In the mighty name of Yahusha, we seal it up right now in the mighty name of Yahusha. We say peace to everyone, shalom.
Yes.
Listen, to your house, to everything. Listen, circulate this as much as you can. Invite people to we're going to keep it up. It's going to be on YouTube. Share it with everybody. Like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Hebraic Faith TV. Go check out Dr. Kelly. Please subscribe to him at We Woke Now. Follow him on Facebook and get that information. He has it. Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.